Hello and welcome everyone. Hope everyone had a happy new year, good holiday season. Thank you for tuning in. So today's meeting, we'll be going through, we'll go through, our share drive feedback stuff. We're going to do a market update and, Bob from Dallas, he's going to go and show something on Thinkorswim as far as earnings. So I think you guys will find that useful. And we're also going to go through, a bunch of the earnings update review. Shawn's been tracking those real closely. So, that's kind of our general agenda for today. So I did want to show you guys, we did upload in the share drive all the PowerPoints for the earnings webinar, and those videos are available on our YouTube channel. So if you guys need to go back through those, let us know. We also have the earnings page on under our resources tab. So right here, the earnings, so you can go through and click, and it explains all the different strategies here. So if you guys have questions on any of those, let us know. I know this really just getting into the beginning of the earnings season, and trades are coming. So before we get started, we implemented for those earnings trades. So we have this pre-alerts that comes out. You should get an email at 9:30. This isn't, we still have a few bugs to work out with this, but they should populate. Just verify the strikes. Don't just take it blindly. So if you have questions on that, let us know. But, I'd still, until, our programmer comes back next week, we'll get all this, this, tighten up this this ship here. You always have your calendar, which I would say would be your default. You want to go into to look at not the calendar, sorry, the plan. Pardon me, the earnings plan, that we shared. And if you guys don't have access to that, please, send me an email, Joshua at Delphiantrading.com, and I'll put you on the list so you'll get that earnings plan. Sorry, this this calendar takes a little bit to load up. It's a lot of data.
Josh, I'm not seeing an email. I go check the pre-alerts. I just manually, click on it, and they're still showing up a day late.
Well, they'll show up. Okay, I'll show you. Let me duplicate here. So these should be, trades for today. So these are the ones that showed up, for today. So if we look at, the earnings plan, and this will only show, these will show up until tomorrow, at 9:30, right around then, 9:35, these get updated. So you can't go back in time and look at them. It's just like a live trade thing. But these should be the trades for entry today. And Shawn, you've been tracking this too, Match. Let's see if this is, not sure why that one didn't show. ICE. I guess the search isn't working very well.
The search is not working right now.
Okay. All right. Plan search. All right, I'm writing that one down.
I'm just pulling it up on another screen as well, Josh.
Okay. I just don't want to, so we know the earnings date, so let me. Let's see, earnings day here, 2/4.
The way I find them, because the search isn't working, is I just sort the symbols in alphabetical order,
Yeah,
and then I can just go to M. Well, you're on ICE, right? ICE,
yeah,
so it's easier to find that way.
yeah. Yeah, that probably is. I was going off the earnings date because I knew that. Or the two.
Yeah,
Yeah, so this one, ICE, the entry date is 1/6. So that's
yeah.
what that's what it should populate here. So trades that you need to get into this day.
But is there supposed to be an email as well? Because I have not received an email.
Yeah, we'll make sure that those are going out. I had, maybe I deleted it. It
Because
goes
I'm
one
getting,
way or the
I
other.
get the studies email, and if there's an alert that I've set, I get those emails. But I have not seen a earnings pre-alert email
Yeah,
during this whole Q4 cycle.
okay. Yeah, this is what should come out. This goes to my, one of my personal emails. Um, So you should get this every morning at 9:30. So we'll make a note of that you guys aren't getting the earnings emails. So, we can take care of all this. We can't really do anything till next week when, our programmer gets back. So, we'll make sure that these are getting pushed out to everyone. This should come, you see, like right at 9:30 here.
Yeah, that's fine. I just haven't gotten them. I know your lead programmer's out, so.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So so there's two ways. So I mean, you still want to go off the earnings plan now until all these, we can make sure this is all good. But this is, I think, will be a lot more useful when you get this 9:30. Okay, here's what I need to do today. So, and then, it gives you the readout here, estimated unknown. So, that, you still want to, be careful about, if it's not confirmed, as far as those, these are doing the updates properly, which I think are great, as far as, things that get confirmed or changed. So, if it's still estimated, that's something we've been dealing with a lot. Sorry, I have a cold, so I may be coughing throughout here. So, that's just kind of up to you guys, if you want to do the trade when it's not confirmed on our system, and then, you can look at elsewhere. You can pull up, Thinkorswim, and Shawn does that, or you can, go to, other sources and see, okay, this one has earnings this February 4th, which is the same as ours, but, ours isn't showing confirmed right now, but, they're matching on those two systems. So, you may want to, you may be comfortable doing that at this point. If it's a range, a lot of times I see like a range, and at that point, you don't know for sure whether it's, going to be on that date or something different.
And real quick too, Thinkorswim has it as a question mark, which for their system means it's not confirmed either. Same date, February 4th, but still a question mark, so not confirmed.
Right.
Just
So,
for the group, I have not taken any trades with a estimated. You guys know I trade the earnings plan almost 100%,
mhm.
and I have not taken any trades where the earnings were not confirmed. But I've taken every trade, I think, except one where the earnings were confirmed, and I have yet to have a loss. So they're working real well. But since the market is, in my opinion, quite overbought, one way to stay out of bullish trades is if the earnings are not confirmed, I just pass on it. So like all four today have estimated earnings, and I didn't take any of them.
Right. Yeah, and I
But-
think it's up to the individual.
Yeah, that's my personal choice. Yeah.
Yeah, I know Shawn's been tracking them really close, which is awesome for us. So he's going to show that how things are going.
But to me, the whole thing revolves around your analysis of your database revolves around a fixed earnings date, right? Every entry and exit revolves around a known earnings date in the past. So if the next earnings date is not confirmed, to me, the logic of the analysis falls apart, right? So
Yeah, I agree.
for me, if it's says estimated, I just pass on the trade.
Yeah. Yeah, I think two things are saying the same thing where it's not, like a date range, then maybe I'd take it. But yeah, it's always, there's so many trades and yeah, there's nothing wrong with passing because, there's probably another trade tomorrow that may be confirmed. So.
Right. I mean, this plan has over 300 some trades. So,
Right.
there's not, and like I said, the ones where the earnings were confirmed and I have taken, I'm in about, I think there's still about maybe 10 that are open, but the ones that have closed, I haven't taken a loss yet. They've all hit their 25% targets.
Yeah. Well, that's a good start.
Yeah, I don't expect to remain at 100% win rate, but at least
No.
at least to start, starting out just fine. But like I said, there's been at least a dozen with unconfirmed earning, and I just pass on those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's the big problem with the pre-runners is if you don't have a confirmed date, it's tougher to get into that. If you're relying on a specific date entry and you don't know when the actual earnings is. Normally, you just want to pass on that. All right. So
I have a comment on that. There seems to be a fair amount of concern about risk on the exact entry date. On the pre-runners, when you're getting in just sometime ahead of the earnings date, and you miss it by a day or so, to me that doesn't bother me quite so much. The fact that you're in before and you are if the earnings date actually moves a little bit and you're already in, you can at least manage the trade. But if you haven't taken the trade, you can't. There's nothing to manage. So, by managing, I mean just if you're in a long call position because you're expecting a rise in the stock price, it either didn't or it did or didn't from whenever you did put the trade on, even if the actual earnings date changed. If it got pushed up and you're already in the trade, well, you can get out as long as you do know when you watch the earnings date and don't miss it, and make sure you get out ahead of time. So I really don't see a huge risk of not getting into a trade because you're not sure about the date. At least for the pre-runners and ones when you're in with a long position and you're just waiting for volatility to go up because it'll probably keep going up till you get to the earnings date. So if you're in a little bit, a couple days early because the date got pushed back, well, that gives you just a couple more days in the trade, the way I see it. Anyway, so I'm not too worried about that kind of risk.
Well, I think the big thing there, Dave, and like we're basing this strategy off a specific entry date. Now, if you do like Apple and you see it has a pretty good win rate in this whole window, I don't see a problem. If it's still estimated within a week time frame, like if you get in, with it, that week, you should be pretty good just looking at how it tests there. Now, some of them, can be drastically different results between, 19 days, or if it ends up being 15, based off of the testing, it may be a loss at 15 and a strong winner at 19. So, I would just say, personally, I think you want to at least check that where see if you have like a batch. We know like Facebook has like a bunch of them, like Apple. Some of them test really well. Whatever this cake is. I don't even know what that symbol is. but you can see this is a big range, so you probably just want to get in. It's we picked the optimal trades as far as those setups, but there's a day or two range here. So if you got in and they move earnings back one day, it's not a huge change between a bunch of these here. But if it's like a single, where it only has one, and that's the only date and it's not confirmed, something like this, DFS, I would be a little more leery than just like charging forward. So that's just my 2 cents on it. Because we're going in based off of the specific strategy, entry at a specific time based off of historical analysis. So if we don't know when it's going to end, unless we have, unless it's a really strong performer over, a wide, pretty good range here of time, I'd be leery of it. Just kind of blindly going in, unless you know.
Go into your raw data real quick, Josh, and look at that DFS for all of them, because it should show up there as all, right? Oh, you don't have them sorted. Okay.
All right.
Let's see. And then just do that DFS, because there's only 2 on that other page, right? So there's where you might get your big difference, right? 12 days out is 60%, 40 days, 17 days out is 40% win rate. So 18 days, 50% win rate. So that's where you get a problem, is if they move it a week forward or a week backwards, this could really kind of come into play a little bit, to where you were at a 90% win rate. Now you're at a, 50% win rate or 40. So just like Josh said, you have the data. He has the data here under that raw data tab. So, if you wanted to look at it and see, you could try to make some personal analysis that way to if you wanted to get into the position, but it's still estimated.
Yeah, I think that's the only way you can combat these kind of unknown earnings when they come up. Other than that, like Sudhir said, I just, if you're not sure and it's not a strong performer, I'd definitely pass. So
the other thing is, that somebody has to make the price go up, right? A large set of buyers. And what the human behavior behind your analysis is that somebody is buying up the stock a certain amount of time before earnings, causing the stock price to go up and therefore the option price to go up, right? And if the earnings date is not known, will those people who do that behave the same way? I don't know, right?
Right.
So, or when will they do it, right? If that earnings date is not known. So, anyway, there's different ways. There's a lot of nuances to the earnings plan. There's different ways to do it. I just choose to, if it's not confirmed, because there's so many trades, I don't need to overanalyze one single trade. I just pass and move on, right?
Right. As you can see, there's tons, and I saw Anita put in a question about, so when these trades come up, you guys all have access to this share drive where you can download these on your computer, so you can pull up and see ones that how they tested here. Like there's ICE. There's a few others in there too. So you can just pull them up and see how they tested here. The other way you can do it is just go in and actually do it manually. If you want to verify it in the bullish pre-runners here. And those criteria, how you set up that search is on that raw tab at the very top here. So we have the exact criteria you need. And then there's your long call. And you just want to go through and use the liquid options and make sure your days are set up properly, so that you can do these trades, and you can just go here and manually put in the specific days that you're trying to trade. So this is the quick way. Just pull up the spreadsheet that we did and find them. So okay.
Just to add to, since you brought up DFS, DFS was confirmed earnings. The entry date was Monday, and it hit its 25% target this morning,
Yeah,
just 2 days later,
right.
right? But I got into it because the earnings date was confirmed. So you had a fixed earnings date, and the entry date was Monday, which I got in, and it hit today. They hit the profit target today.
Right. Good deal.
Sorry. Okay, well, that's good. All right, so let me give me 1 second. All right, sorry, I had to blow my nose. I got a cold. Okay, so that's kind of, we just want to cover that earnings stuff real quick. Shawn's going to go through a bunch of the trades here in a little bit. So what we want to do is do a market update, and then Bob's on here. He's going to show us something as far as like those earning states. So, like Sudhir referenced, we're really high in state ones on the market pulse. We've been like this for quite a while, kind of pegged up here. Obviously, market's creeping higher. Let's take a look. The Russell doesn't give us much. It's kind of leading. It's definitely been leading the market for quite some time. Obviously, very bullish for medium long term. That's the small cap stocks are leading the way. That's where a majority of the growth is, typically. In a
I would say certain small caps are leading the way.
Mhm.
And I don't know that I would say that I mean, you can say, yeah, the Russell as an index is generally going up, but I think there's specific sectors and industry groups within the Russell that are outperforming a lot of the other specific industry groups in the Russell. It's been my observations over here for.
Yeah, which ones?
Well, if you look at today's and since the election, well, you kind of got to look at what President Biden's platform was, and those stocks are kind of up or way up. And stocks that are in the Russell, like banks were up today. I think there's bullish news out on the banks. I'm not that bullish on the banks myself, but they're not up nearly as much as pot stocks, green energy stocks, industrial stocks, not necessarily as the smaller ones, the ones that have been kind of like overlooked because people have just been putting money into the large cap NASDAQ stocks. So money's coming out of those for the most part, or at least they're kind of like flattening out. Apple and Facebook and Microsoft, et cetera. And that money that was there, because nobody knew where to put the money in, so it all went there during the COVID stay-at-home kind of thing. Now where it's like, are we going to come out? It looks like the vaccines are coming out, so everybody's moving out of that group, right, and into other smaller stocks within technology, for example. So there's a lot of technology stocks that are smaller that are doing quite well, even though Apple sort of and the ones I just mentioned are kind of like flat lately. Mm-hmm. So it's a stock picker. I think it's a picker's market here.
Okay. Well, we're just kind of looking high level. What we had talked about developing is like market pulse type stuff for sectors. So I think that'll be something we can look at after we get Sandeep back, or in the near future we can look at developing those, so we can kind of look at the oversold, overbought, and see how those different sectors are doing. I don't think I've really drilled down much into looking at small cap sectors. I kind of just look at the spider ones, like up here on the on the main page. So this would mostly be, you know, like the large cap. So I know they all, you know, there's a bunch of different ETFs with, you know, small tech, small cap tech, small cap, you know, whatever. They all have their own little small cap ones also somewhere. But I haven't done much, you know, analysis on those. I could just kind of look at the big ones for that. Overall analysis, I just, you know, we just kind of focus on, you know, the big Russell 2000. So, so this one, as we can see, you know, well above kind of no man's land. Yeah, I don't know if I think it made new, everything's making new highs today. So, yeah, we've been talking about this being overbought for quite a while. So, you know, it's still way overbought. This isn't really giving us much of an indication just because it's so far out there. So we'll look at the SPX here. So this one pretty much very similar to what, you know, we were talking in December. You know, it's still playing right around this target 3. So that's your key level. It seems like it, you know, this 3 is starting to act like support. You know, I think we made new highs today. So it's not, you know, if it can, you know, pretty much keep holding, you know, building some support, yeah, it could run. I just find it hard to see, you know, this thing not correcting near future. I mean, I think there's a lot of risk going forward in the next 2 weeks, just like election type stuff here. So we'll see what happens. You know, just watch your key levels here. Target 3 obviously is the key right now. So we'll go and look at the market pulse also. So we implemented that bullish bearish. So, you know, we have 2 options here. You know, you can look at the different states and cross them out. And then we also put in the bullish bearish. So it just adds all the, you know, the bullish 1, 3, 5, 7, and then the bearish 2, 4, 6, 8. And then combines them here. Has anyone been kind of tracking this?
I look at it every day. I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, what's your feeling on it?
Well, you know, it would have been interesting. We didn't, of course, have the market pulse back when it did these crosses that you showed back in October.
Right.
And but I've looked and they correlate very interestingly to pivots in the market.
Mm-hmm.
And if you superimpose, as we discussed, the SPY or SPX
Right.
on it, and I think you know, it's clearly showing that we peaked in the number of bullish state stocks a couple of weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, we're correcting. The indexes, of course, just on the 31st hit an all-time high, and I think intraday they hit an all-time high on Monday or something.
Mm-hmm.
And but the indexes are driven by the, you know, the largest cap stocks in those indexes, right?
Right. Yeah.
But underneath it, you have a clear decline of number of stocks in state 1,
Mm-hmm.
or bullish, sorry, in
Bullish.
any bullish state, and a rise in stocks in any bearish state,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it seems to be correcting, but it hasn't hit the big caps.
Right.
That's my read on it. I look at it every day. I think this is a very interesting chart that you guys did.
Yeah. I think, you know, so we can test this, you know, we'd have to look at creating a signal for like these crossovers and things like that. So we can go back and test those over time. You know, and I know this is a brand new thing, and there's a little data cleanup we got to do. I saw that email from you, Sadir, just about, you know, the max we have is 4,000. So for some reason back there, they got to clean that up.
Yeah.
but,
I could see it being less than 4,000 because, there's some stocks, well, like Uber wasn't around, for when
Yeah.
the Uber IPO, it was a couple of years ago, right? There's some stocks that haven't been around that long, but
Right.
it shouldn't ever exceed 4,000. So that something is wacky there.
Yeah, we'll get that fixed. But these seem all to be showing properly, within that like 6-month time frame. So has anyone else been looking at this or have comments on it? No. Okay. Well, we're gonna have Bob. You there, Bob? Let you run the show for a little bit here.
Yeah, I'm here, Josh. Audio okay?
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay, I'm gonna do share screen. Give me just a second.
Okay.
Can you see that?
Yeah, we got it. It's
Should be looking at 2 watch list in the upper left.
yeah.
Okay, hang on just a second.
Mhm.
Call you back in a minute. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay,
Sure.
2 weeks ago, I realized how interested I was in doing the earnings. I've been doing Delphian for a couple of years, but this was the first time that I was really sure that I wanted to do earnings, and mostly because it has become, in my mind, so well developed. I had been using CML Viz for a couple of years. I canceled that subscription. Delphian, in my view, is way ahead of where they were or perhaps ever will be. So the presentation 2 weeks ago, particularly by Sudhir, made me realize that there's a lot of transactional activity that goes along with doing earnings. So I knew that I needed a process, and I wanted that process to be as much as I could in Thinkorswim, which I've used for, 10 years, I guess.
Mhm.
So I kind of know my way around Thinkorswim. It's kind of like Excel. You think you're pretty good at Excel, and then you watch an Excel video and you realize you know maybe 50%, but I'm pretty decent at Thinkorswim. So here was my process. I started out with Josh's spreadsheet, and I decided to focus on only the 100% win rates for this quarter. That was my kind of get used to it exercise. So I went to create a watch list of the candidates in Thinkorswim. And in the process of doing that, I learned that I could do an import. So I took the symbols out of Josh's spreadsheet, just the symbols, dropped them in the upper left-hand corner of a new spreadsheet, saved it as a CSV or a .csv, comma separated values, and then used the import function in Thinkorswim. So I ended up with a earnings watch list that was sorted in the same order as the import. And that order was the column you see on the far right that says entry date based on calendar days. So I've got that watch list. The next thing I did was, hang on just a minute. I'm doing this from screenshots. The next thing I learned, which was maybe easily the most valuable thing of the things that I learned going through this, was that once I had created that watch list, I could go to the calendar function, not in Thinkorswim, but in the TD Ameritrade website. It's in calendars. And see where it says select? Well, it let me select that watch list.
Mhm.
So all of a sudden, I had the earnings dates for the entire watch list in a form that made it easy for me to keep track of. I didn't want to switch back and forth between Thinkorswim and Delphian if I didn't have to. So this kind of gave me that opportunity. It also gave me the opportunity to verify the earnings dates in Josh's spreadsheet. So I felt like I was making pretty good progress. And the next thing I did was I created a segregated account called Earnings in Thinkorswim. And the reason I did that is because I thought Sudhir did a pretty good job of doing his summary 2 weeks ago. I just wanted to be able to do that without getting it confused with other trades I was doing other places. So the top row of reds that you see here, by the way, I've got about 10 positions on. You can see them at the bottom. 7 of those went on this morning. 3 of them went on over the last couple of days. So they're all pretty fresh. So the middle row of red and green is the orders that filled today. The top row of red is exit orders at 25%. Mm-hmm. IBM today got up to 76%. I just wrote it out. I just watched it happen. And when I felt like it was at the top, I took it off. So my row of 25%ers at the top is kind of a watch list. If I can get a sense that something's on a run, I'll probably let it go a bit. Mm-hmm. I think I've got one more. Hang on a second. Josh, I think that's it. That's really all I had to pass on, and it is certainly standing on the shoulders of others. You and Shawn and Sudhir have helped me get to this point. No, well, I think, collectively, we share ideas, we can improve processes. I know a lot of people use Thinkorswim, so, for their trading. So I'm sure, people found this very helpful, and, we'll just continue to try and improve things. Anyone have any questions for Bob?
No, that was good. I didn't know that if importing into Thinkorswim would allow you to select it on the TOS website. That's TD
Ameritrade, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. The TD Ameritrade website. That's news. That's interesting.
And I was going to say too, Bob, do you know if you can input, on that TD Ameritrade calendar, can you input notes on that calendar? Or I know you imported the data, the entry or the earnings dates, but I wonder if you can actually add like a note on the calendar. Have you tried that?
I didn't see that capability, Shawn. That doesn't mean it's not there.
Right, because that'd be interesting if you could put import the earnings and then maybe put your date in there if it's confirmed of 20 days ahead of time if we had to put the trade on. I have that access too. I haven't looked at it that often. I just don't know, if, I mean, there's some functionality there that we might be able to use. I'd have to play around with it too. But no, I think, like Josh mentioned,
I'm doing that
Go
in the
ahead.
spread. Once I've
Right.
got a confirmed date out of the calendar, I'm dropping that confirmed date in the spreadsheet. And then one of the other members passed on an Excel formula that converts trade days with consideration of holidays into calendar days. So that's the column you see on the far right that says entry date based on calendar days.
Right.
So that's where I'm keeping my notes.
Good. Yeah, and like Josh said too, I mean, I think us sharing all these ideas together helps, right? Because I have a different flow that's probably not the best process, and Sid here has one that's pretty good, and you have one that's pretty good as well. But I feel that if we all talk about it and kind of give our ideas, then hopefully, sooner than later, we can come up with a good process that works for everyone, right? That makes it more efficient and more proficient when we're trying to get these trades in. Because I find myself a lot of times, like on Monday, there was 11 or 12 symbols that had come out with an alert, and you're like, okay, well, wow, what do I do with all these? And then you're trying to scramble to try to figure it out to make sure they're confirmed or estimated and to get the results and things like that. So I think this is good.
Hey,
The
Bob,
other thing,
I'm sorry.
the other thing, Bob has pointed out, and this echoes Dave's point earlier, is that he took the IBM trade. I didn't take it because the earnings were not confirmed on the day, the recommended trade day, right? On the other hand, he's up 71%, and I missed it. So, there's different ways to look at this earnings plan, that can work. So, those who choose to get in, even though the earnings are still estimated, may do just as well, if not better.
So here, I think that shows that I don't think I took any trades that didn't show as confirmed in Thinkorswim.
Well, if that's the case, on the entry date for IBM that day, at least what I saw was the earnings were not confirmed. It was still estimated, and I usually check Thinkorswim too, but maybe I looked at it wrong. But it worked for you, so that's great. I mean, I wasn't in the trade, but it worked. So.
And yeah, they still have a question mark on my end on Thinkorswim. It still shows a question mark for IBM as the 21st, but so.
Hey, Bob, Dan here. I think you mentioned that you created a segregated account in Thinkorswim called Earnings.
Yes.
What do you mean by a segregated account? How did you do that?
I've got 4 accounts in Thinkorswim. There are 2 IRAs and 2 joint accounts. One joint account is called trading, and it's mostly options, but it's guided by my activities using Sector Surfer. I didn't want to commingle the earnings trades with those other options trades. So I just went into the TD Ameritrade website and did the open account exercise and walked my way through it to create a 4th account.
Oh, I see. So you have a separate login and everything for that particular account?
No, they're all linked.
Oh, you linked them. I see. Okay. All right.
But they gave you a different account number though.
It's a different account number. When you go to the link function, you can link, and you can also do a nickname there. So it's the earnings account.
Right.
And do you have to fund that one separately?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I did a funding transfer from the other joint account to fund it.
All right, beautiful. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing. So you did have to fund that account separately. Now, that's sort of akin to the virtual portfolio and Delphian, though, which is kind of like I don't want to dwell on Thinkorswim, but the group function on Thinkorswim can do something like that within an account, within any specific account, but not across linked accounts. So the idea is creating like a separate box or holding tank for your earnings trade so that you can keep track of how earnings is doing compared to your other kind of trading, right? So I think the same thing that you can accomplish in Delphian with the virtual portfolio, if I'm not mistaken. So, or I haven't looked at those. That's the way I keep track of those trades.
You know, to back up just a moment on this issue of confirmed date, when I look at the watch list, a lot of the symbols show the question mark in the little blue circle. But when I look at the earnings calendar, it shows confirmed. I'll spend a little more time with that when we finish today to see if I'm overlooking something or if or if there's a conflict within TOS. So I'll take that as my takeaway.
Yeah, and I've seen it like that a little bit different too, where I've seen some other places like, Bar Chart or Delphian or the combination of the two in Morningstar say that it's a solid date, and then I'll go over to the TOS and it'll have the question mark. So, there's I guess where they're getting the data from, if it's running an algorithm to pull out the date, or if they're pulling the data from somebody else, or whatever the case may be. I think like we've mentioned before, this earnings season and in the past, and then hopefully not going forward too much more, there's just so much fluctuation and change with all these dates that I just think a lot of different platforms and companies are just having a hard time solidifying, what the date actually is. So, or even if they're like a day behind, they're still going to have that day where it shows that it's not confirmed. So it's definitely confusing.
Well, there's a screen back and I'm going to mute.
Okay.
All right.
One
right.
side note that I
Yep.
wanted to mention on the earnings plan for the group, I generally trade, as I mentioned, nearly the whole earnings plan, and I also trade the studies, right? But I'll make sure they don't conflict. So, for example, a couple days ago on the Delphian studies, there was I shouldn't say conflict. I make sure they don't duplicate. There was a long call recommended on Stanley Black & Decker, and SWK is the ticker. And I checked the earnings plan, and there's a bullish pre-runner coming up tomorrow on Stanley Black & Decker. So I don't do two trades, so on the same symbol. So I'm just doing the one on the earnings plan. So just to avoid over risking on a single symbol, if you're doing the studies, check the earnings plan, and in that case they're both long calls. It'll work, but you don't want to double up on risk.
Right. Okay, good point. So Shawn, you ready to go through your
Yeah.
earnings?
Yeah, I'm ready just to kind of follow up on some of the stuff we were, just talking about. So that's cool. Yeah, so like I said, I feel like, we're giving a lot of information on here, and in my mind, that's kind of what I'm getting out of these calls, and I hope everybody else is getting out of the calls, is to, we have these processes within Delphian. We want everyone to learn them and to try to make them better within Delphian. And if it's something like that earnings plan, and we can make it more efficient with coming up with the dates, a better way to kind of track these moving earnings dates is great. And the fact that we can share them with each other, and hopefully everybody is learning, something from the process as we're moving forward. And to Anita's question earlier, that's what I do, is kind of what Josh showed with, I go into the shared file, I download that earnings plan. So the bullish pre-runner plan, I download it onto my desktop. Now, that plan that I'll show you right here, the plan that I downloaded, again, it's static. So if these earnings dates change, my trade entry dates aren't going to change here. So I download it, but it kind of gives me an idea. If I see that, IBM or some other stock has come about and it's a possible trade, then I'll come on my list here. I can look under this bullish pre-runner list, and I can see, okay, if Netflix was today, it's a 90% win rate, and here's my examples. And if I want to look at that further in detail, then like Josh showed, I'll go into my calendar here, and I'll pull that specific trade details up in my calendar to just verify if I want to look at those particular specifics. So again, that's a process that I have. I feel that there's probably a better way to do that, but for now, that's kind of the one I'm sticking with. So again, if people come up with a better idea or a better way to do it, definitely share it with the group so so everybody can be more proficient. And I want to try to be more proficient as well when I do that. So yeah, like Josh had mentioned, I'm tracking these just like everybody else is. I'm trying to track them in the virtual portfolio. I'll show everybody that in a little bit. But what I did want to show you is from, there's a handful of symbols in here that I had listed that had earnings come out or the bullish pre-runner come out for Monday. And I know Sid here did a handful of them, and Bob was looking at them as well. But I had them marked in yellow. I did this on Sunday night. I marked them in yellow so I knew that I wanted to trade them or at least look at them. But I'm trying to come out with an idea of myself is, okay, well, if there's 10 symbols ready to trade for Monday, let's say, I think there was 8 that were confirmed maybe or somewhere around that. But what I did was I wanted to come out and say, okay, well, what state, is that particular symbol in? And then I also wanted to look at, was the price currently below 1 standard deviation or was it above it? Just to try to see if I could get a difference between all 8 symbols and maybe find 4 out of the 8 or 2 out of the 8 that were maybe going to be potentially better to trade than the others, right? I didn't want to trade all 10. So was there a way that I could kind of sort these out and find some that might be better than the others, just to see for myself, right? So you can see, I just put this here just as like my personal notes. State 1, it was above target 1. AXP, American Express, was in state 1, but it hadn't hit its targets yet, or maybe it did, but it was back below them. It was below 1 standard deviation on the price. So I just put these notes in here for myself. And
I don't understand
I would say
where you're getting the standard deviation.
I just pulled that in. So I just did it with the screener. So what I did was I took that list there I took the list for symbols, let's say for Monday. I didn't have them all in here for some reason. I was trying to look at this earlier, but I took the symbol list kind of like what Bob was talking about. And I added the stock list I imported that list of 10 so symbols into a stock list within Delphian. And then I used that stock list to run that screener. So if I'm looking at this stock list right here, so I have to revert back to see why I didn't add them all in there, but let's just say these were the ones that were ready to go for Monday for the bullish pre-runners. So what I did was I imported those in, and then I just went into my screener. And then under the custom screener, I used that. So I went in there, I did 1 for bullish pre-runners, and then I went into my indicators. And then I basically either would use like the Bollinger Band, and I would say it was, let's say the close was, less than or equal to, the upper or 1 standard deviation, let's say. I don't know if that's exactly
so
what
that's where you're getting the standard. You're saying using the Bollinger Band standard deviation.
I think that's what I used, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's see. So these were below, let's say like Apple, it's showing as what? So close is less than or equal to the upper Bollinger Band 1 standard deviation for 1 day. I might have used a different one sit here. Let's see if I use the standard deviation here.
But now I understand the basic concept. But were you looking for them to be at the top of the band by 1 standard deviation, or near the bottom? Was it the other? Which direction?
Yeah, just lower than the 1 standard, lower than the 1 upper standard deviation, right? Because I wanted the stock to have started to make a move, but not make a big move already. So I was just trying to figure it out myself to see if there's a way I could pull some of these symbols out, because I didn't want to trade all of them. And to your point from last meeting, we're going to have a lot come out in a couple weeks. So if I can take those 27 symbols for that 1 day maybe and try to figure out a way to find, the best of the best out of those 27. And to Bob's point, maybe 5 of those 27 are 100% winners. Well, which one of those 5s maybe have the better potential to move? I don't know. So this is where I was just trying to come up with some of these ideas to see if I could say, okay, well, show me some that, show me a reason to buy this one versus that one, right? So I figured maybe if it hadn't broke through the upper standard deviation, maybe that would give the possibility that it has more room to run to the upside. I'm not sure, but I'm just talking out loud to the group here to kind of throw ideas out there of what might give you a reason to buy one versus the other, right? Does that make sense, or does that sound ludicrous?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, I haven't run into that problem yet, but I did last cycle, because as you get into the guts of the earnings season, which is usually the 3rd week of the quarter through the 6th week of the quarter, there's a lot of trades, right? So, to manage all those trades, is there a way to narrow it down to the best of the best, like you said? Right now, it's not overwhelming, but it did get that way for me, like the 3rd week, of October through, through the 2nd week of November. It was a lot of trades to manage. So there is some merit to try to narrow it down during that peak period, right?
That peak time, right? Yeah, because if you look at these, this is the ones that are all, I think, over 80 or 90% from February 1st through the 4th, let's say, which I think even the 5th is so the 4th. So the 1st through the 4th, we're talking about, I can't see my symbol count down there, but how many? That was like 30 something,
39.
I think. 39. So, just this week right here from the 1st through the 5th, we're talking about 39 potential trades that could be on at the same time, unless, ones from the 2nd made a profit within a couple of days. So that's a lot of trades that you would want to try to manage out and see if you could figure out what are the best of the best. You can see there's a bunch of 100% winners in here based on the analysis, and then a bunch of 90s, but maybe some of these 90s have a really high profit factor, and maybe I want to trade those. So what's going to make me want to trade this one versus, TMO or where the case may be. So just trying to run different ideas and see if I can find a clear way that's going to make me trade one versus the other. So I was just doing that. And, if somebody else, again, if you find a way that suits you better, or that seems to, might suit the group, definitely please share it, because that's what I'm doing as a side note on my own. And, and to your point real quick on that virtual portfolio, which I'll show everybody, Josh had mentioned it, I'm using the virtual portfolio to track most of these as I can. There's a couple that I still need to add from the other day, but, I've talked about this before, I'm using a basically like a minimum amount that I'm investing in each symbol. So if I'm purchasing, IBM, let's say, and a 4 lot of those IBM options comes up to be $900, I'm going to bump it up so I go over $1,000. So I'm at least investing a minimum of $1,000 into each trade, for this particular earnings plan. Now, I have the confirmed and estimated in this list here. So I'm still debating if I want to take the estimated ones out, which I think I'm going to do, but I wanted to have them in here at the get-go. Now, again, this is all end-of-day data. So if I'm out intraday, this is going to adjust it. But you can see I have all these open positions as of right now. Now, we know American Express probably today I'm going to get out of that one. IBM, I'd be out of that one. There's probably a couple other ones here as well that are going to be Citigroup. I think I should be out of that one today also. But you can see as those positions lie coming into today, I'm already at, almost my capital at work is $23,000 out of the $100,000 account. So, we can see that we're using up a lot of capital, and we're not in the middle of the earnings season as of yet either. So it could be pretty capital intensive depending on how you're adjusting it and the amount of money that you're using to fund those particular positions.
That's very true. It starts to eat a lot of buying power as you get into the bulk of so you have to really be careful with that. And this is one of the reasons I never did those short strangles, right?
Right.
Because that just takes so much buying power. more than like a long call or something like that, right? And
Right.
but yeah, when you get into the bulk, it starts really locking up buying power.
Right. And I think that's a good point too, because you want to kind of have that plan ahead, I feel, whereas if you feel like you're going to get your account or your positions that you want to put these trades on overextended, and then tomorrow a trade comes out that you actually really want to trade, but you don't have enough buying power, or you don't want to overextend the amount of money you're putting in these positions, then you come into that quandary of, now what do I do? You know, do I take that 10% winner, pull that off so I can actually invest in this, you know, Apple long call position? What do I do, right? So you always want to try to be forward thinking, I feel, on a situation like that, because you don't want to get caught to where you're like, man, I really want to do this trade today, but I don't have enough money that I want to put towards all these trades as a whole. So now what do I do? You know, do I take some of my losers off? Do I take some of my mediocre winners off? You know, kind of what's your plan at that particular point in time? So
Shawn.
Yes.
So Shawn, I was gonna see if I recap on what you've been saying to see if I kind of get your picture. So when you have a group of 3, 4, 5, 7, a number of stocks that show up on the earnings plan, all with the same entry kind of date, you would look maybe first at to see which ones might have the biggest profit factor, and then look to see which, especially you would choose one. You would maybe choose, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like I would be choosing the one with the biggest profit factor that is got the most room to run, which would be the one that would stand out in the lower part of the Bollinger Bands, and use that as a higher priority pick than a smaller profit factor that's got less room to run, if I'm using that word. Those words right. One thing I would maybe add to that is I'd take a quick look to see how close to the all-time high that particular, candidate might be. If it's right at all-time highs or whatever, that might influence me to pick one that's not quite at all-time highs that still has some room to run. So right. You kind of like you would weight your thinking towards picking the candidate that has the most profit factor, that has the most room to run, and it's not extended already toward an all-time high. Would that be a good summary of what you were just saying? Yeah. I mean, and I think it's fair, and I don't feel, and I think looking at the all-time high, like you mentioned, would be something that might be prudent or might be, useful for you. I might not find as much use for that, or sit here might not either, or whatever the case may be, right? But yeah, I just find that if I have this entire list of, if I have these 8 symbols, let's say, what's going to make me want to choose, PHM over, this CM CSA? They both have, a 90% win rate, or they both have a high profit factor, but what's going to make me choose the one over the other? And I look at this PLD and it was in state 4. So I'm like, well, is that one going to be better than the other one because the other one might be in state 1 versus state 4? Just trying to look at to see if I could figure out a difference between them. Really just trying to optimize that list of 8 to see if I could find a better list of 3 or 4. And that's just what I'm trying to do. Yeah, and again, I feel that the list of these earnings trades that we have put out, I feel that they're a great list of symbols to trade. I mean, I've run the analysis. Josh has run the analysis. We have the results. We can look at it. Barring everything crazy that's going on externally, I still feel that these trades are great trades. Like, I feel that we're giving you the win percentage, the profit factor, and I feel that other than you having some inside information on the particular symbol, that we're just giving you a great trade based on the analysis that we ran versus you just going out and picking, AMD because you like the tech stock and you think AMD is going to have great earnings, right? I feel like our analysis might be a little bit better than that. But is there a way that I can make this analysis just a little bit better? And that's just what I'm trying to do by adding some of this. And I don't know if it will make it better. I have no idea. I'm just trying to see if I can do that, because that's kind of what I'm always trying to use Delphian for. I got the good trade. Now, can I make that good trade just a little bit better? And then if I can, then maybe I can kind of improve my, profit factor as a whole, right?
Yeah, I think there is some merit to this, and you may not be able to, complete this analysis until after an entire quarter cycle of the earnings plan. But, there is some merit to it because, obviously you get into the bulk of earnings season and people have to work, they have families, and, if you got 20 trays to put on that day and you say, all right, well, I'm really busy that day. What are the 2 or 3 or 5 that I really are the superstars out of this 20, right? Then
Right.
you narrow it down to that. Now, if you're not busy, you might want to do them all, but everybody's got.
Yeah, and if you can stay consistent within the reasoning that you're choosing one over the other and it's working out, that'll give you more confidence in sticking with that approach going forward as well.
Right.
Can
I don't know
just-
what the correct reasoning is. So the analysis you're doing, Shawn, it would be very interesting to see what would be, because I didn't narrow it down any more than are the earnings confirmed or not, right? Then
Right.
Then it's in the best trade tab, and I took it, but as we've discussed, it gets to be really busy, in the peak earnings season.
In the peak time. That's right. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Shawn, I like the idea that you brought up here, because when I look at the list of stocks, in Severe, I mean, he's had an amazing win percentage on here, but if you look at it, to me, it's all backward looking. Whereas if you start adding some technical indicators on there, I was wondering if you tried using like a momentum indicator, like an RSI or something, to separate, call out some of the stocks as a better performer.
I did, yeah. And that kind of brings me to another point that we're working on within Delphian. Once, I think coming I don't even know if it was like September or whatever the time frame was, some of the RSI tables weren't working properly. So I've got some of the coding group, Resham, and like Josh said, when Deep comes back, to try to verify some of the information on those tables that we have, because I tried to run the RSI using the same information here. I tried to use the RSI as well, but the data wasn't coming across properly. So I'm waiting for those tables to be updated, but I would use something similar to that as well. And I just feel like, once I set up this stock list within, whatever the trades are, right? Let's see, with these, let me go forward. So with these 8 symbols that I have right here, I already have the stock list imported into Delphian. So now I can add whatever screener I want to onto that list fairly quickly. So doing the state modeling, or doing the standard deviation, or doing the RSI or the Keltner channels, I can do those really quick once I have the list there. So yeah, that's what I would recommend doing. If you like to use the RSI, or if you like to use the moving averages, try to maybe add those on top of it and see. I can't guarantee it's going to make the results better, but I think it just might help make your analysis a little bit stronger.
Yeah, I like that. That makes sense to me.
So yeah, take these, if all of these symbols are coming, we got a bunch coming out, like we said, in the later part. Just take that stock list, copy it, import it into Delphian. I usually import it into Delphian and I give it a name, just like this one I did for 1/4. But if I have an entire week from February 1st to the 5th, I might just give that list that name, February 1st through the 5th, bullish pre-runners, and I'll do that stock list as that name, so I know that that's the reason I did that stock list. And then I'll just run that screener analysis on it real quick and say, all right, show me some of these that are the best, of the best, and then see if it works. I mean, like Sudhir said, at the end of the quarter, you might get a better picture of this one worked better versus that one. But I just feel like if there's something that, if I can look at this symbol AXP and say, all right, good, bullish pre-runner, it's in state 1, below 1 standard deviation, that just kind of adds a little more confidence, I think, into me trading it to be bullish, right? But that might not promote the same type of confidence for Dave or for Josh, but for me, it works. So then I'm like, all right, well, if it loses, at least I did a little more analysis and I can say, all right, it lost, no big deal, right? Move on. So.
Hey, let me jump in and ask a question, please. So I hear.
Yes.
What?
No, I said, yeah.
Okay. So we're talking about having a lot of trades, and I think I heard Sudhir say, maybe 15 or something a day. And now compare this, not compare it, but blend it in with what we started the meeting with of market pulse being, I don't know, what, 78%, and let's see, 78, and then state one is overbought at 66%. And we've been doing this a while, and compare it to the, SPX, SPY, Russell. I get concerned that maybe I'll get too many trades on and the market will take away 10, 15%. Does that leave me with a lot of total losses or real strong losses? And then how does that affect, we talk about profit margin on a particular stock, then you think about, well, your whole portfolio. What does the group think about, okay, it looks pretty tough. How many trades do you want to have on at once? Well,
Right. No,
you trade 500
go ahead.
bucks. I'm sorry. If you trade 500 bucks a trade and you got 15 open trades, that's $7,500. That's a strong number. What do you all think about that?
No, I think that's
No,
where Shawn's analysis will help. If you get, let's call them you have the high win rate ones, and then there might be, I don't know, maybe the starred, you have a star next to it and you only do the starred ones. You know what I'm saying? Because you're concerned about the market, or you don't want to overextend your working capital and that sort of thing. I don't know a way to narrow it down, but I think there needs to be a way to narrow it down that, hopefully Shawn's analysis over time can show us, because you do get into that, when I did it for the Q3 plan, if you recall the slides I presented, I showed what the SPX did during that plan, and it was a roller coaster. There were significant down periods, for a couple of weeks at a time, which we could get into right now because we're overbought, but in October, the market went down for a couple of weeks. But I found bullish trades that I entered during that time, during that downtime, when the market came back up, eventually hit their 25% profit target. But during the down period, for sure, there were a lot of paper unrealized losses in the account, drawdowns, right? They eventually came back, but you don't know that will happen this quarter, right? So if there's a concern of the market, then it's nice to have kind of this really high probability, the starred trades, and you just do those to narrow it down. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I don't have a way to narrow it down right now.
Right. And I agree with that, and I think if there's concern, and there's possibly a little concern based on, like you just talked about, the market pulse and kind of where the market is and the all-time highs. And, you could be on either side. I've heard reports of people saying that they feel the market's going to continue this rally into this year. And then there's other people, obviously, that say it's going to sell off, but that's obviously what makes the market, right? But yeah, personally, I feel that if you think that doing these trades, you're going to get overextended in your account, and if the market correction happens, it's really going to have a hugely negative impact on your portfolio and, your personal trading as well, then you might want to back off on some of those trades, right? Try to find something within these, within this list of 200 and something symbols that makes you want to trade 6 or 7 or 10 of them, because even if you take this list, I said 200, but how much is in here? Even if you take this list of 112 for the next 3 months and you change that to 7 trade, or let's just say 10 trades, you're talking about 10 trades over the next 3 months that you could do. That's still a fair amount of trading that can be done, and a fair amount of money that could be made, over that 3-month period. You're talking about 3 trades a month, which is still, in my mind, you're not like an active day trader, but you're still trading a decent amount just by doing 3 trades a month, I think, right? So you know, I think if you know that market pulse resonates with you and puts a little hesitancy in your trading on some of these bullish trades, then take this list down. I mean, there's tons of trades in here I think that you could find and that you could feel really confident with, even in this market environment that we're in. And, you know, and then you just lay that across some of these other ones, like the vol crush trades and some of these other seasonal trades. And your list is getting a little bit bigger, but you're still able to kind of, you know, kind of spread that trading power out a little bit.
All right, thank you.
And to that point, you know, if I look at this one here, and this is kind of going back to what Satir had said earlier as well, matching trades up. So one side note, what I did was I ran a seasonality analysis I think on the 31st of December coming into the new year. And I think we had talked about that a little bit, you know, in the last call. But if I look at this seasonal long, so what I did was I ran a seasonality, you know, on the 31st, I ran a seasonality using a price change is greater than or equal to plus 5% in the next 20 days. And it's happened 9 out of the past 10 years. So I ran that seasonality on the 31st, as you see here. I did the bulk analysis just using a long call. And this was my result based on that bulk analysis. So I had all these symbols that populated up. And so I could do a seasonality trade on these if I wanted to, right? If I look at one symbol that kind of stands out to me, because I know I had seen it somewhere else, was this Skyworks, this row 2, right? Skyworks Solutions. It came out qualified 9 out of the 10 times. You know, the win rate was really low, 30% win rate. So not that good, but my profit factor was still positive. So what does that tell me? I'm not sure. I might want to look at that a little bit further. But if I take that Skyworks, look at it that it showed up on the seasonality that it's going to move possibly 5% or higher the next 20 days. And then I come back in and I look at my bullish pre-runners. You know, here's my Skyworks right there. It came up as a bullish pre-runner on Monday. It's in state 1, below the 1 standard deviation. So now I have somewhat of a confirmation between 2 different sets of rules that I've used within Delphian that show me that this particular stock could potentially be a pretty good buy. You know, and then I think, you know, if I look at the trade today, the trade itself, obviously a lot of stocks are up pretty big today. It's up 2.5% right now. It was up higher. So that trade came off today as a profitable trade that I put in on Monday. So, you know, I'm kind of looking for things like that. And I think if you start seeing kind of a matching between here and other system, you know, other different criteria that you're using, you might be able to sort out some trades that way as well. You know, and then the seasonal, you can look at a couple different ones. You know, like you can see, take 2s in here, First Solar, Netflix. So you got some pretty good seasonal ones that are coming about. Netflix, as we know, probably not the best of trades today because we got a pretty decent sell-off in the market, especially from that 540 price. I think Netflix is probably at 508 or so. But just some ideas to throw out there of different things that we can maybe do to kind of advance it a little bit. I'm just going to look in the chat real quick. Sorry.
Yeah, I got this.
I was just looking this. Okay, cool. Thank you, Josh. And then I did another one. So I did another seasonality based on, you know, what we've talked about before, using that between factor. I did a seasonality same day on the 31st, price change between 5% negative to 5% positive in the next 20 days, 10 out of 10. And then this was the bulk list that I had come up with. So, you know, this would be using something. When I used this bulk list, actually what I did was I used the iron condor like we've talked about before, but instead of using the expected move, since I'm not really trading these stocks based on the expected move, I'm really trading them on the fact that they're not going to move a certain percentage based on the seasonality back test. So what I did was I said, well, if I use 5% positive, 5% negative, I want to basically sell a put and a call at the money. And then I'm basically going to buy my call, buy my put for protection 5% above and 5% below the current market price. So, you know, if you look at some of these, you know, 77%, but if you look at the others, 100%, 90%, things like that. So, you know, still some kind of good trades to run there. And you can look at some of these and cross-reference with other systems as well. I did do one, don't ask me the reason that I did this one versus the other, but I did Kimberly-Clark, and that one's working out pretty well. I kind of used a strategy similar to what Sudhir uses. I used the weekly options, but I'm using next week's options expiration. So next Friday versus this Friday. I just got a little bit better of a credit, but not much. But when I tested it, that's kind of the test that I used in the platform in that one screener section. So any questions about the seasonality or any of those things that we've been talking about?
Did you get a chance to look at the difference between the bulk and the individual? I had sent you an email on. It seemed like the bulk, even when I select weekly, was still doing the monthly.
Doing the monthly, yeah.
You remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do, and I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I will look at it today and see. But I know when you run the bulk, it's showing you the result as like a weekly on that one screen. But I thought it was showing the weekly results. It was showing the monthly, but I thought it was used.
You know, when you go to bulk analysis, and let's say something shows up, like in your case, Kimberly Clark, 90% win rate. You can go back to the seasonality screen, not the bulk screen, the seasonality screen, and you should be able to go to Kimberly Clark and individually hit the analysis button, and it should technically give you the same result, correct?
Right, correct.
But I found a number of times that it didn't, right? That it, you know, I tried it 2-3 times, and it didn't give me the same result, right?
It wasn't pulling up the same.
So the bulk was, you know, I do them and they're successful. I didn't do one this week because of the Georgia election, but you know, it seems like the results should be the same, you know, from the bulk analysis, or if you just were to click on that row individually and hit the analysis button.
Right. Yeah, it should. You're right. I'll have to look at it and see what you're saying. Let's see. I went back so everybody can see. Well, now it's pulling up all these next 20 days. Let me see real quick. I did 20, 10 of 10. Let's see. Should use the new price change between. See why it's not pulling up the same ones. Let's see if I can look at that. That one's not in there now. All right, I'll have to figure that out. But you're saying, Sudhir, you're saying when you run it as the bulk, so if I go into my iron butterfly and I use I think I used, for some of mine, I was using the 15%. So let's say I was doing 15% of max profit. You know, and some of these we're talking about 5%. So the expected move. So we're looking at a percentage from the current close, and I'm saying 5% because that was what I used as my analysis. Percentage from current close, 5% below. And then what I was doing weekly, and let's just say 6 days. So I'll do my analysis that way.
You know, if you do your analysis, I don't know what stock you're selected because you scroll down, but
yeah, let's see. Let's go Aflac or something. Let's see what it shows.
Now, if you do the bulk, it opens a new window, correct? And,
right, correct.
But all your parameters here, which you've set up with the 15% price target, and all of that is supposed to transport over, and you know you hit the analysis button on the bulk screen, and it comes back with on that screen a bulk analysis for all of these symbols, which you can then find the ones that are 100% or 90%, right?
Correct.
When you come back to this screen, the seasonal screen, and you go to a symbol that was 100% on the other screen, you should be able to select that symbol and it should give you the same result.
Right.
But I found that it didn't.
And it's not.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll have to look at that. So if I just, go ahead.
Well, no, that was the thing. So just based on the other screen, based on what was highlighted, it appeared to me like the bulk analysis would default to the monthly option, even though I had selected weekly on the seasonality screen. You follow what I'm saying?
Seasonality, right?
When
I do.
when you hit bulk, when the results come back, it seemed to have highlighted the month. See where you have weekly highlighted?
Mm-hmm.
When you hit bulk and you go over there and the results come back, it looks to me like for some reason it has defaulted to monthly.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
That resulted in the difference between the two. Because, the analysis of the bulk should, if I go back individually, it should be exactly the same.
right. You're right. Yeah, and here we go. I got this pulled up. So let's see. So let me close this. Does everybody follow what I just did and what we're talking about? Is anybody lost in that scenario of how we did how we come up with the screener seasonality, did the bulk, and now we're running the bulk analysis? Does anybody have a question with that? So not necessarily on this section here, Satir, or are you talking about somewhere else after I upload this file, or in this actual readout here?
Yeah, Shawn, I think he's saying if you sort it, so he pulls out like the 10, and CBX may
Right.
not match on the previous screen when you do the individual analysis.
It wouldn't show up as a 10.
Yeah, it may have, you may have like an 80% win rate in the other. You said these aren't matching exactly some of the time on the other testing screen.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's not sure if the weeklies is actually occur. I think one way we can test that is just, we can do a weekly and then we can do a monthly and see if they're, if they match, then we know weekly's not working because they should be different.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to
We'll have to look at this.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, I was gonna say, we'll have to run that and see here. But yeah, these are set up, to hopefully make it easier. But yeah, what we'll do is after we get off the call, I'll take some examples from here and I'll run them in a full back test. So I'll run the Wizards back test, and that way, and I'll use the weekly options for one trade strategy and a monthly options for the other, and see if we can match up the two and see where the differences are coming about. So yeah, because the Chubb, this one Chubb is the one I wrote down by hand, and it showed up as 589 and 587 and 77.78 from the previous page. But yeah, we'll have to run the two and see.
Yeah, just to be clear, what I'm saying is if you take ConAgra at 66.67, if you were to pull up the seasonality page that you started with, I don't know if you, I think you got off of that page.
Yeah.
And you pulled up ConAgra and clicked on it, so it had the yellow thing. It should give me a win rate of 66.67.
Right.
In the little green graph. I realize currently you're on long stock, but let's assume you were on iron butterfly, and all the parameters were exactly the same, right? It should give me 66.67, correct?
Right. It should, right? I mean,
I found it didn't. I found it didn't.
That would be my thinking, yeah. So now let me change it.
And I don't know if is your scroll down, is your butterfly set up?
Oh yeah, I gotta change that. Sorry, it's not. You're right. Sorry about that.
See, now you've set it up exactly like the bulk, right? It should give you the same number.
Right.
In this case, it does.
So it gives you the 66, but let's see the negative. Yeah, the negative 112. But I know what you're saying, and in the past I had seen that to where we had to have them fix it because it was still like it was almost as if the back test was still pulling in the monthlies and kind of disregarding my weekly here, right? So like I selected, I mean you can see here it shows monthly, but I selected weekly, and it was almost like it was pulling in the weeklies no matter what. So we had to have them adjust that because it was definitely incorrect. But yeah, I'll
maybe it's correct now. the week that I was doing it when I sent you it was different on like 2-3 symbols, but maybe
Yeah.
they've corrected it.
Yeah, I'll look at it. I'll look at it further too, just to verify, because we want to make sure it's, you know, apples to apples for sure. So, but yeah, so I'll verify that after we get off the call. But that's kind of what I do. You know, I kind of keep a list. This is some of the lists I've been keeping for, you know, the bullish pre-runners, and I've been running some other. I just added tabs so I could try to keep track of some other stuff here as well, within the seasonality and within this seasonality also. So, you know, I would say just get used to using the system, using that bulk analysis, being able to download those files, kind of, you know, looking at the files for yourself. And again, if you feel you're getting overextended, definitely try to see if you can, you know, minimize the list down or bring the list down a little bit. Again, you know, again, I feel all the symbols are great and good symbols to trade. But if you need to kind of try to find the best of the best, try to be creative and see if you can figure out a way to find those symbols that might work best for you, whether it's using, you know, the moving averages or using state modeling or using the RSI. I feel that if you can whittle some of those down to a more manageable list for yourself using other indicators that you find as valid, you know, I just feel that might give you a little more confidence in the trading that you're doing as well. Doesn't mean that those are going to work, and it doesn't mean that the ones that we've created are going to work either. But I feel that the more analysis you can put on there, personal analysis, I just feel it's going to make you a little more confident, and hopefully it would make the trading, you know, better in the end as well, more profitable. So any questions, comments? I mean, that's really all that I wanted to show everyone. I'm trying to keep track of all these within that virtual portfolio. It's a task amongst itself to do that. But, you know, once I get all those in there, you know, I think it'll give us a good look at kind of how those trades have worked out. Now, again, you know, that we're looking at the end of day data. So intraday, if you're in the position and it just triggered you on a sell right now and you got out of the position for a profit right now, and then the stock goes down, you know, the remainder of the day, then the results here within my virtual portfolio are going to be a little bit different from yours. But I'm hoping this is going to kind of give us a good idea of where we're at, you know, within the bullish pre-runners and within, you know, the other trades as well. So questions, comments, anyone? Okay, I think that's all I had, Josh. I mean, again, I wanted to thank Bob for sharing this stuff earlier, Sudhir, Dave, everybody on the call, I feel contributes something to this call. And I feel like in my mind, that's what I want this call to be. I want it to be like a collective group of us, you know, talking about ideas, talking about things that we can do within Delphian to make the trades a bit better, to come up with new trade ideas, to use the system to our advantage, to come up with profitable trades. And I feel like we're on that path. And if you do find different ways to use Thinkorswim or to use other systems to kind of solidify some of our earnings dates or solidify some of the problems that we have, that's only going to make us better as a group. So, you know, please keep the input coming. And I appreciate you guys for sharing your thoughts and ideas as well.
Hey, Shawn.
Yes.
If you look at some of your ones that you're made a big loss in, like CTXS, can you look at maybe add the chart to see, you know, where it is on the state diagram or the RSI, just to, you know, go backwards in time as far as, you know, what the indicators are showing, why it is a loss. The same thing for TAL.
We can definitely do. Yeah, we can definitely do that. And you can see pretty quickly too when you're running over these. I mean, you can see that, like you said, 42% on CTXS. What are we looking at? Another one, we're looking at 38% on TAL, 20% on WBA. So we can definitely go back in here into the actual chart and see and just run further analysis on those. And that's what's great about that virtual portfolio is you can see that in there. You can go back in time in the virtual portfolio, but you can actually come in here and say, okay, well, here's CTXS. You know, let me overlay state modeling onto this chart or overlay the RSI on here. And, you know, what does it show me about this position? You know, why am I taking a loss? And we can kind of see, I put the position on 1228. So maybe around, 1228 around this time. And you can see the next day after, it just took a big hit for the particular stock. But, you know, if you disregarded those particular sections there, you know, it would look like a pretty good buy because we're coming back up and we're pushing higher. But, you know, that big drop plus further downside is causing that position to really take a hit. So, but yeah, you can always do that. You know, look at these positions and kind of run that back analysis. And again, I think that's what's great with this virtual portfolio is because you can go back in time using the calendar and run different analysis and say, okay, well, you know, I didn't do the position because I put it in my virtual portfolio, but what would make me not want to put this position on, or what would inspire me to put this position on, and then just kind of run that analysis for yourself. But yeah, we have, you know, there's a couple of big losers here. I mean, those three mainly we're talking about. WBA was on 12.11. That was one before we put this analysis out, but you know, I had seen that one in there. So I wanted to kind of put that in there in the virtual just in case we wanted to keep it going forward. But we can see 12.11. If I run this WBA, once it populates the chart, you know, 12.11 is roughly right here. So you can see the next day I had a little spike up, and then it's pretty much just been like, see you later to the downside. But you can add other indicators on here. We could add, you know, state modeling on here. So I could say state modeling, all states, where was it at that particular time? And then we can say, okay, well, based on state modeling, if we're looking at the date of 12/11, you know, WBA was in a state 5. So it was in state 5, which is should have been somewhat of a bullish state, but then it pretty much started coming down in state 6, and now we're back in a state 5. So looks like it might have some possibility, but we can always look at other indicators too. You know, you can kind of run your SMA if you wanted to look at like an SMA on there, a 50-day or something like that, whatever type of analysis you want to put on there. You know, you can definitely do that. And you can see at that point in time, we were above the 50-day moving average. We hit it, now we're bounced off. So is it going to go higher? I'm not sure, but we'll see. So yeah, that's all I had. If anybody has any questions, again, you know, feel free to email me or get on the call with me. I know I got some outstanding issues with a handful of people on the call that we're working through regarding, you know, some back tests and things like that. So I'm still working on some of those. But, you know, again, feel free to contact me, contact Josh if we can help you out with anything. If we can show you some more of this earning stuff in detail, let us know. Again, I like doing this stuff, so I don't mind, you know, taking the time to show you some of the stuff that we've already went over on the call. And yeah, if you have any questions, shoot me an email.
Yeah, thanks, Shawn, and yeah, thank you everyone for your input. If there's no more questions, we'll end it up for the week, and you know, we'll be back next week.
Good call. Thank you.
All right, thank you
Good
all.
deal. Thanks, everybody.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.